going on, dudes and dudettes? So a local three-star offensive lineman, JT Tauanuu, hopefully I'm saying that correct. He was recently committed to Stanford, and it sucked that we had lost him at that time, of him committing up there. But recently he decommitted, and then just like a couple days after, he all of a sudden committed to USC, which is awesome because he is technically only a three-star, but I think he has the ability to become a four-star. I think it's just the level of high school that he's playing at, but he definitely has a lot of talent, and if Stanford saw that, then it's obvious that not only could he survive grade-wise, but he could also do pretty good on the field as well. So, yes, definitely looking forward to seeing him on the field, but yes, this is definitely one of the bigger gets for that class, even though like prestige-wise and stars-wise it doesn't look like it. I still think it's a positive get for USC football. I believe the USC women's basketball team did pretty good this last week in signing some very top players, 2 5-star players in that class of 2024. I believe they did sign a 5-star in Kennedy Smith, who is number 6 overall, and she's from Tauanuu High School, which is not that far from here, which is pretty cool. And then another 5-star player in Kaylee Heckel, I believe that's how you say it. She's number 28 overall player in the class. So yeah, they already have all this talent. I think it was Avery Howell, who was the other 5-star as well in this class, and they just added 2 more. So yes, Lindsay Gottlieb is definitely building up a monster down here in SoCal when it comes to women's basketball, and it's becoming like, the next UConn or whatever, because it always was 5-star players would just matriculate through that program, and they're always consistently good. So hoping for that as well. Hopefully they don't try to lure her away and coach somewhere a little bit more well-known as of right now in the women's basketball space. But yes, as of right now, it's looking pretty good by USC Trojans, so let's go. And the other day, the women's basketball team did beat Florida Gulf Coast. I think it was like 65 to 51, which was nice, and they also jumped them up all the way to number 10 in the AP poll with like that win last week as well against number 4 Ohio State, and then this week against another victory. So yeah, it's pretty nice. They jumped up like 11 spots, so even the country is noticing how good this team can be. So definitely looking forward to seeing the rest of the way. And then when it came to Julian Juju Lewis, one of the top guys in that 2026 quarterback class who's committed to USC, he once again went off. He had like 435 passing yards with 7 touchdowns altogether in a playoff win, and I think he only missed like 3 or 4 incompletions, which is pretty crazy for high school. But yeah, this guy's the real deal. I think maybe he's gonna consider to go into that 2025 class, hopefully, so he will get to going to USC a year sooner. And he's even had a bunch of quotes saying that people don't know, they don't understand what USC is building out here, but they will once he's on campus, and a lot of the other guys are as well, the young recruits. So liking the positivity from this young guy and hoping it does come to fruition at some point pretty soon. And as I mentioned the other day, the women's soccer team was heading to the postseason, and they were going to play Grand Canyon, and luckily they got that victory 1-0. I thought they were going to be able to play a little bit better, but that's why it's the postseason. Every team is good once you get there. So they got that victory. I don't know who exactly they play next, but hoping for a nice positive update on the X app when I go in there at some point next couple of days. And then the other day, when it came to the men's basketball team, they did beat CSU Bakersfield. I believe that's who it was, 85-59. And then in that couple of wins, especially the one win last week against Kansas State in Vegas, bumped them up all the way to number 16 as well in the AP poll. So they didn't jump as much as the women's, but with the men's it's a lot harder because even like Duke lost this last weekend, and even though it was a close game, and they're still like number 9 or 10. So yeah, I'll get into them in another video, but this is strictly mostly USC stuff. But yeah, either way, you're still moving forward. You're still getting the respect from the AP poll, and hopefully it will help you out when it comes down to tournament time and them seeding you in a correct place or not. So definitely looking forward to that. And then Jet White, who was at one point committed to USC when he was like a freshman, I think, in high school. Now he's still like in his junior season, but he recently did put USC in his final 10 or top 10, whatever it is, and he's going to have a commitment date January 6th, I believe it was, at the start of next year. So hoping he does pick USC again, because he is one of the more better 4-star players out there, but like I always say, we'll just have to wait and see. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, the receiver for the Detroit Lions and ex-USC player, has been doing some pretty good stuff, especially setting some records historically in the NFL. I think he's just a handful of players who have had around 250 receptions in their first 40 games, which is a nice, area to be a part of, a nice list. But even this last game Sunday, he went over 100 yards again, almost like 150. And that's like the 6th time he's done it this year, which has him tied with A.J. Brown of the Eagles, I believe it is. And of course, he did that against the Chargers in a loss for the Chargers on a last-second field goal. But like I said, this is strictly USC, so I'll stick to that in another video. But yes, it was fun to see him go off, but like I said, it just sucks that my team did lose. But once again, he's proving why he's great, and I'm not surprised because it was a coming back to LA type of game for him and a couple other guys on that team, and I wasn't surprised that he did go off. But of course, it had to be against my team. He should have done it against the Rams and not against the Chargers. But yes, either way, congrats, man. There was an article that came out before the USC versus Oregon game Saturday or Friday, I think it was, that it was talking about the safety Kalen Bullock for USC and his draft stock dropping a little bit and him falling a little bit farther out of one of the top picks in the NFL draft. Obviously, it was kind of like a long shot for him to be a late first-round pick, depending on who liked him. But definitely a second-round pick. I wouldn't have minded him getting picked by the Chargers. But even I could see a couple of his mistakes here and there. That's why he's only a junior, and I wish he would come back for his senior year. But maybe he just feels like the program isn't ready to compete 100% with the people around him. So he probably doesn't want to come and just already go to the NFL, get drafted wherever, and start his career, his professional career now. But yes, hoping that he does stick around. Obviously, we would love Caleb Williams to stick around for another year because even he needs some help to get a little bit better. But he most likely will be gone as well. But yes, either way, I don't know. We'll see. If he does end up going to the NFL, I would still have the Chargers pick him later in the draft because I still think he has a bunch of talent to unravel. But yeah, it's looking not that great so far for a guy who was a preseason All-American for USC. And then yes, that game against number 6 Oregon at Oregon this last Saturday, USC did end up losing that game. What was it, like 27-36, so like a 9-point loss. People thought Oregon was just going to demolish them and destroy them, so I guess USC kind of stood up their own, even though they had just fired their defensive coordinator after the last game. But yeah, there were still a bunch of mistakes and big plays given up. Like, I think Bo Nix, the quarterback for Oregon, his first 2 passes were like long touchdown passes, and he already had like 150 yards on 2 passes and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, they quelled that a little bit. They stopped it, but then, even with the rushing game, usually Oregon rushes for over 200. I think they barely were like at 150, so that's kind of an improvement, but maybe they didn't have to run the ball as much because they were getting so much production in the air and all that stuff. And anytime, like, there was a 4th down stop that USC did get, but then I think the referee said one of the USC guys was offside, so that continued the drive for Oregon. And like a couple of times when Oregon did fumble the ball, especially like right at the end zone where USC could have picked it up and just ran it in, or just, the very next play on offense scored really quick, but the balls just kept going back to Oregon's way. And I think even Caleb did fumble the ball once, and I forget if there's any other stuff because I stopped watching after like the first quarter or so, just because I already kind of knew and felt that this defense wasn't ready, and they're already complaining and arguing with each other and pointing at each other like who was supposed to be here and there, and they're just always confused, which is kind of weird. Like, you'd think by now you'd be able to play a lot better and more consistent for seeing how like top and talented some of these guys are, but for some reason it just isn't going right for them. Let me see if there's anything else that I messed up, but yeah, other than that, there were like 16 NFL scouts there. So once again, a big time game for USC. I think it was like Notre Dame and probably Colorado as well, and even Washington game, Utah game. There's always been scouts at these games for the team playing against USC and USC, but yeah, I don't know if Caleb kind of like gets a little bit better stats in those games, even though USC still lost in most of those games as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else he has to prove to be the number one, but even a lot of people are talking about Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback, being picked over him. So maybe he might as well just come back to college and, be the number one pick the following year, because he should be good enough to do that. But yeah, either way, pretty down season for USC. They get UCLA, their rival, this Saturday, so obviously it's a big game no matter what, no matter the records of the teams. It is the most important game to UCLA football fans, because they kind of just really care about basketball, and that's already started, so they're probably not really caring even about that as much. But USC, yeah, they did win last year, so we want to keep that victory bell and hoping that does happen and Caleb does go off in one of his final games as a USC Trojan, because who knows if he's going to play in the bowl game or not, depending how much, eyes are going to be watching and how popular of a bowl game it is. He probably won't even play if he is going to the NFL, so we'll have to wait and see. And sadly, a couple guys, at least for them, they recently got fired as head coaches from teams, but they are on the defensive side. I know one is. I don't know if another one is, but he is still a guy I would like USC to have on the staff, because I think he is a talented person. And he had a winning record at the school, and they still fired him after a couple years, so it didn't really make sense. But speaking of that coach, it is the head coach, Andy Avalos from Boise State. Had a winning record and was trying to build something up there. It's tough to build up there in Boise, Idaho, but he had a little bit of something, and I guess they just decided to part ways, or he got fired. So whether he is offense or defense, I would still like him in the program, in my opinion. And then another guy who recently got fired from Mississippi State, Zach Arnett. He is a defensive coach, I believe. So yes, I would prefer him to be, to try to regain some credit out there, become a defensive coordinator. Yeah, it's tough to coach in the SEC when you're one of those bottom teams, not one of the top, but Mississippi State would always try to, play their best and had some good enough stats here and there. So another couple of guys to add to the coaching search list or wherever positions they would be good at. So either way, hoping for the best with this defensive coordinator search, and hopefully Lincoln Riley gets on it. I know he's going to probably take his time a little bit, even going towards the end, because maybe some other guys might get let go as well, so you just never know. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.